Imagine this. It's October of 2012. 39th graders, along with myself, are sitting in advocacy, diligently bubbling in our registration scantrons for our very first PSAT. Now, for any of the high school or recently graduated students in the room, you will remember that there's a portion of the exam that requires students to copy a certification statement in cursive. Upon reaching this section, one of my classmates timidly raised his hand and asked, "What if I don't know how to write in cursive?" The majority of the students joined in, for most had either never been taught or they had simply forgotten how to write in cursive. My advocacy teacher was thus forced to copy the statement on the front whiteboard for the students to imitate as best as possible. It was then that I realized cursive was dying. As I watched the event unfold, I was a little surprised by my peers, primarily because I've always preferred cursive over print. In fact, I've never even formally learned print. Maybe it's a matter of speed, or aesthetics, or maybe even nostalgia, but to this day, I still prefer cursive. College Board has since changed their policy. They no longer require cursive on the test. But this memory functions as a starting point for what I want to talk to you about today. The topic is our shared future. And when I think about the future, I think about how our society can and will evolve. Today, I want to talk to you about the evolution of writing. Cursive script has been prevalent since essentially the beginning of modern-day handwriting, and its historical significance is noteworthy. Even our founding fathers used it to write our founding documents, the Declaration of Independence being one of those. But today, it is fading because it is simply not being emphasized, and in many cases not even taught in our school curriculums. For instance, the Common Core, a set of educational guidelines adopted by over 42 states, does not even mention cursive. Texas, which instead uses their own text guidelines, requires instruction for cursive only in 3rd grade. However, by 4th grade, students are allowed to choose between cursive and print at their own discretion. In some districts, cursive is taught under the arts department. This leaves cursive as an art form, something meant for aesthetic appeal rather than practical use. Curriculums have changed with the times, and cursive has been identified as a non-necessary skill for graduation because, well, given the trends of our society, it kind of isn't. Now, more than ever, we live on our laptops, our tablets, our phones, devices upon which cursive is not necessary or even applicable. We read through Arial, Calibri, and Times New Roman, all fonts written in print. Within the near future, the pervasiveness of technology will completely eliminate the need for longhand. However, this death of cursive will only be the first step in the wrong direction for penmanship in general, as it implies that our writing forms are expendable. If we are to account the rise of technology, if we are to hold that responsible for the fall of cursive, then by the same logic, it is not far-fetched to assume that handwriting in general could be next. I mean, who needs handwriting when you have a keyboard? In our texting and typing world, handwriting is going out of style. Take a second to process that. Some of you are probably thinking, really? How can handwriting be dying? Well, I'm not saying that it will happen in an instant, but handwriting is already being phased out. US postal figures show that although in 2006, 45 billion pieces of first-class mail were shipped, by 2015, only 9 years later, this number dropped to less than half that, at only 20 billion. Here's another question. When was the last time, outside of school, you handwrote something of consequential value? DocMail, an online stationer, provided research showing that for average Americans, that number, the number of days since they last handwrote something of value, was 41 days. Schools are one of the last places where handwriting remains prominent. There's a little bit of a paradox, as mentioned by Stephen Graham, a literacy and learning specialist. If you look outside of the schools, the majority of writing is electronic. In schools, most of the writing is done by hand. Educational trends are changing though, and this will also soon change. Educational trends are bringing technology such as laptops and tablets into the classroom. Although initiatives such as Power Up and TEDxHISD are new and thus still require many improvements, they are evidence towards the progression of electronic reading and notation. Laptops are replacing tangible books, and this limits the need for handwriting in our futures. In fact, the same Common Core standards which disregarded cursive writing also mandated that students starting in 3rd grade be proficient in keyboarding skills. As a society, we tend to associate technology with progress. After all, the innovations of the past millennium have allowed us to accomplish tasks previously unheard of. But what is the cost of such progress? What are we willing to exchange for such innovation? It definitely should not be our culture, and handwriting is just that. Handwriting, by definition, is a fundamental constant across all cultures. Yet its beauty and its importance remain in its ability to be unique for every language and every individual. Our penmanship is a symbol for individuality. Both in style and in content, it is the tangible product of our emotions. And this is something that no font can replace. Its educational benefits are also apparent. Studies have shown that taking notes by hand rather than via keyboard are better for long-term comprehension, as it forces the brain to be engaged in determining what is important enough to be written down. I've experienced this phenomena firsthand. When I use a computer in class to take notes, I often find that the information flows directly from my ears to my hands, and I'm not able to truly process the information. And so, by the end of class, I just end up with a page full of incoherent gibberish. Instead, I like using handwriting. It allows me to tangibly feel the words being written onto the piece of lined paper, and I find the process of scratching or erasing an incorrect word to be satisfying, much more satisfying than clicking a delete button. But what about you? If I told you to write something down right now, would you choose a pencil or your phone? The beauty of this question is that these answers are not yet mutually exclusive because we currently live in a world where both are options. But this might not be true for our future. It may be too late to reverse the trend for cursive, but it is not too late to reverse the trend for handwriting in general. And so it is up to us to decide. Is handwriting just another skill that is serving its purpose until something better, in this case, typing, makes it unnecessary? Or is it innately intertwined in our culture as a part of how we process information and how we think? In other words, is handwriting expendable, or is it an inherent part of our society? I hope you will write down your opinion, because then you might realize your actual answer. Thank you.